Mofokeng, but I want to pivot it to what what we need to be doing when it comes to our youth. Urile is an incredible player. I think the last 2 videos that I did, he's been the headline. Scoring versus Sundowns, coming back and scoring for Bafana. He's been one of the form players of the season so far. Ukokomelon, Presidente Ama 2000. He's been incredible. But I think we need to have an honest conversation about him overseas. Now, I want to have it from 2 vantage points so that we're fair. On the one vantage point, I think of all of the youngsters that are in the country right now that play at the top level, Urile Mofokeng is head and shoulders above everybody. The fact that he's starting, the fact that he's contributing, the fact that he's the guy. I mean, you think back to things like the Nedbank Cup. He was the one that willed Pirates out of it. You think of that attacking unit. You know, you love the fact that he's spearheading that unit. I mean, if you look at his stats up to this point, he's got 36 games played, 10 goals and 12 assists. So that means that he's got 22 goals and assists or goal involvements in 36 games, which is incredible, especially for a 20-year-old, especially for what we've had up to this point. Now, I watched idiskitv, and there were some interesting things that were said. Shout out to Unkululego, shout out to Junior, Ubobo, Ulindo, Justice and them, shout out to them. There was a conversation that Unkululego was having to ask, was Benedict Vilagazi better than Rile at that time? Well, at that same age. Was Junior Khanye better at that same age? And it was very interesting because both of them said pretty much the same thing, which I agree with. I do believe that Tso and Junior were far better than Urile at 17. Maybe at 18, maybe even at 19. I mean, Utso at some point was captaining Pirates. Utso was one of the players of consequence. Junior Khanye was following Ujabupule, and what derailed them, what derailed Junior was drinking and all of that stuff. But in terms of pure talent, he was up there. Utso, similarly, maybe moving around or trying to go overseas a little bit late was a little bit of an issue there. But I think Urile could relate to Utso a lot better. In that Utso, by the time he wanted to leave and go overseas, by the time he had that, you have to realize where he was going and who he was competing against. And as a country, we face a tough choice. This is what I mean. Urile is one of our star performers right now. There's 2 things that you have to look at. Number 1, he's turning 21. He's turning 21. Which teams would be available for him to go there and do well in? For him to craft the type of career that maybe Abu Dikhashwi, when they got to England, and all of those things, would he be able to be a world beater heading over that side? Because I think where maybe we are robbing Rile is with his development. Now hear me out. Coach Rivero has done an incredible job. But where Rile is meant to be in comparison to the other guys is crazy. Where does he stand versus Lamine Yamal? Where does he stand versus some of the youngsters that have come through? About Jude Bellingham. I believe they're the same age, if I'm not mistaken. And how do you develop that part? Would sending him overseas now mean that he now has to learn the things that 16-year-olds that side know or are being taught? And how does that stop his progression? When he goes that side and maybe he chows bench for a year or 2 learning, how does that stunt his growth and change his growth? For example, you're looking at a Campbell who's at Club Brugge right now. I think he can afford to bench a little bit because he's still got some years on him. He can afford to be taught those things now because he's still got some years on him. And maybe 2 or 3 years from now, you see him emerge as such a great player. because he's been immersed in that culture. You think about Abo Penny, who left here early. You think about Abo Steven Pienaar, who basically never played here. How does that affect Rile's chances? That's number one. But then number two is the harder question. Would it be easier for Rile to stay in South Africa and know that he's playing for a Pirates team that hopefully is looking at Africa? He's playing for a Pirates team where he's going to be one of the shot callers, the big players, the guys that are going to influence the game and grow that way. But in that experience that he's gaining, does he lose the basics? We speak about Abu Themba Zwane, Abu Shigabala being such great players, but because of that development deficiency we have, Abu Shigabala became great late. Abu Shigabala were exposed to great coaching late. Can Pirates be a team that can develop Rile into a world beater? Does he have to go to Sundowns for that? Or is overseas the better shot? Look at what happened to KCS Mailula. Look at what happened to KCS Mailula, for example. And I understand there's a lot of things that come into that. It's your management, it's the choices, it's the teams that approach, it's the contracts that are available. There's a lot of things. But look at Abu KCS Mailula. Rising star. I believe he's 24. I think he left a little bit too late. And by the time he got that side, a team has to decide, are we going to invest in a 22-year-old or 20-year-old, let's say 20, 21, 22-year-old, when we've got 17-year-olds that are tearing it up, that are ready? I mean, where does he rank versus Nico Williams, for example? Abo Phil Foden at that age. Abo Haaland at that age. So we've already got guys here that we've developed here. But do we take a risk on this 21-year-old? And when the 21-year-old gets here, do we still have to teach him about the rest of this football? And this is a bigger problem in SA for me, in that I think the culture of South African football has shifted in terms of development. I think what once was a very development-forward-thinking country, development-focused country, khanye selisiwahla, 15 years old coming through, Abo Tso, Abo Mabizela, Abo Aaron Mokoena, Abo Penny McCarthy, Abo Quinton Fortune, players who got very early starts, Abo Lucas speak about these things, who were trusted very early, who were developed well enough that when they got into the PSL, they were head and shoulders above everybody else. You think about the Brazilian league. I was looking at some of the stats. Neymar's stats are incredible for when he was in Brazil. He was embarrassing people. For sure he was meant to leave. How many players do we have that are doing those type of things? I mean, a comparison would be, how many players do we have that are hitting Besuma numbers? Fanima Dita numbers? Shalulile numbers? And how many of those players have not been in the league for a very long time, but then number two, are young? Who are the players that we're going to be exporting if we're not seeing it now? There was a derby that was played in DDC. There was a derby. Kaizer Chiefs, I believe, is currently number 1 in the DDC. Now, how many of those players could play in the first team of Chiefs next year? How many of the current youth that's sitting on the bench, Abo Mfundo, Abo Shabalala, Abo Zwane, Abo McCarthy, how many of them are ready to play for the Chiefs first team right now? And I believe the culture shift that I was speaking about is more to do with the consequences of doing badly in the league. Coaching in the PSL is an up and down thing. We just saw Coach Gavin get fired. Abu Tendence get fired every year. Every year Abu Coach Siema get fired. Every team in the PSL is in flux almost every year, outside of a Stellenbosch, outside of Mamelodi Sundowns up to now recently, we'll see with Caruso. up to Orlando Pirates, which now Jose Rivero's in his third year. A lot of the other teams chop and change and chop and change and chop 6 months again, 6 months again. And I think what it does is it creates an environment where you can't develop because you can't take risks. I think personally it seems at times that the league is getting older because the older players are trusted for their experience. So they're brought in and I need to win now. I can't build a star player. I can't build a Sereno because I need the results. I can't build a new Ribeiro. I can't build a South African Ribeiro because I need to hold on to this job with everything I have. There's also been this thing where I think everybody just feels like you can just let them go to Sundowns. Ooh, as for developer man, na sister, kipani mali, there you go. And we've outsourced a lot of the development higher level to Sundowns. I mean, just think about it. Just think about it. Back then, Jomo was sending players directly overseas. Abu Marwaru, Benjani as they call him. Now we knew him as Marwaru. Was playing for Uchomo, played for City. Abu Lucas were going to Leeds. Abu Penny were going directly that side. We've outsourced that development, the key development. You know, there's one thing that Gavin Hunt said about Campbell. And he said about Campbell that, you know, when I coach these youngsters, I coach them so that they can do well overseas. Whether you believe in me or whether you don't believe in me, these are the guys that when they get that side, they click. And it was clear to see. Campbell, also for his own talent and hard work, I don't want to take it away from him too, but Campbell lands at Bruges, DDC at Bruges. Hey, head and shoulders above some of those other players. Didn't have to go through Sundowns. Got there, head and shoulders, is now put into the first team. Within a couple of months of him going that side. Development. He's not 20 yet. Development. Why aren't we seeing more teams doing those type of things? Even monetarily, I'm sure it could be great for teams. But we've outsourced every single thing. We've stopped thinking, we've stopped growing, we've stopped developing. I asked last season, what is the point of the DDC? Because for me, it doesn't make sense. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but for me, it doesn't make sense for a team to have a DDC and then you play in a DDC league where your top under 17 and under 18 players are playing together. And then when it's time for them to make the jump to first team football PSL, they're not ready. They're not polished enough. Rather make a reserve league where those players get to play against actual PSL players who are reserves at other clubs so that they can grow faster. There's a reason why Abu Junior Khanye, Abu Vilagazi, Abu Manyatela and those guys were thrown into first team football quickly. The reason why is so that you can grow. So by the time you're asked to make the jump from PSL to Europe, you're early. You're very early. If you're making your debut at 17 and you can light the league up for a season or two, now you're 19 going overseas or 18 going overseas. It opens up. And what we do is that we create more Percy Tau situations where by the time he got to Brighton, yes, there was things that happened, but by the time he got to Brighton, it was too late for him. So I think we need to make the decision, and my fear for Urile lies here. We need to make the decision. Are you going to incubate them well enough here that when they get that side, they're of a different level or a similar level to those players? Which means seeing 15-year-olds playing in the PSL so that they can gain those muscles, they can gain that intelligence. Abu Neymar started very young in their leagues. That by the time he hits 17, he's ready to be exported to somewhere else and he's of the level or better than the players that already exist there. Or you take the 15-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, the 17-year-olds, and you forge paths for them to go that side or to better football in order for them to sit in that culture and soak in the culture and grow and learn maybe at the same rate as some of these other players that we're seeing. So there should be a South African player that's playing with Lamine Yamal when he's 15. So that as they progress up, you've got a Lamine Yamal-esque type 17. He's 17, guys. 38 games played, 13 goals, 17 assists. That's 30 goal. That's 30 goal involvements. Yeah, it's 30 goal involvements in 38 games at 17 years old, playing for Barcelona. Youngest scorer youngest in a Euro final, youngest scorer in Nations League history. Just broke that one this time. He's not even 18. Urile scored his debut goal for Bafana at 20, turning 21. I fear for Urile, because if he doesn't go now, and if they don't plan that thing out to a T, we could lose him. Or he'll just be a South African star. And again, do you stay at Pirates where you are a South African star? Do you go to Sundowns where maybe there's a bigger profile? Where maybe you can play in a Club World Cup? Or do you go overseas? These are the questions we should be asking, not only about Aborile. We should be interrogating the development of Abo Mdushabalala. We should be interrogating the development of Abu Fundo Vilagazi, Abu Puso Ditejane. We should be interrogating the development of Abu Velepai, Abu Bartman. Are we improving these players? Are we getting them ready to play at a high level? Or is our system killing those players? The Stellenbosch boys that won last year, DDC, where do they go after that? Where do the large crop of players that are in the DDC go after that? And are they ready to take that next step? What is the point of that thing? Do we need to change our expectations of coaches and say, you know what, Jose, you've got 3 years, man. If you want to bring Abo Mbogazi in, if you want to bring in Abo Rile in, if you want to bring in Abo Nkota, go for it. We're going to back you. Do we have those type of structures? And I again want to send a shout out to Coach Jose, because development is such a tough thing to do. I feel as though a lot of our young players in the country are developing on their own. Have you ever seen a building built without a proper structure? Well, let's say I plant a tree. Let's say you don't put in those little wire things that make it go straight. How would the tree grow? And I feel as though a lot of our youngsters are being free. They're being let to grow. They are being free developed, in that they're the ones that decide their road. And why I give Coach Jose so much credit is you don't get a Rile without a Hoto backing him up. You don't get a Rile without Abu Tito, Abu Mabasa, guys that are able to take pressure off. Or when you inevitably go through those young things. That's why Barcelona, Lamine Yamal, is not just that he's such an incredible player, but the structure around him. You know, Mbogazi next to Koki, I think that's incredible. Sesane next to Nda, that's incredible. Because you structure the growth. But then you look at some of the other players. What's Mfundo getting out of Chiefs right now? Obrigado. Skillful, talented, technical, all of those things. Is there time to sit him down and say, boy, these are the intricacies of the game at a world, at a Euro, at a whatever level. We're going to take that talent that you have and we're going to build on top of it. Lamine Yamal is gifted. I am pretty sure Mofokeng is as gifted. I'm pretty sure Vilakazi is as gifted. I'm pretty sure Shabalala is as gifted. I'm pretty sure Abozwane are as gifted. But the difference here is La Masia and Barcelona and the intention of building the players. Bo Pedri. Look at how Phil Foden, look at how Phil Foden's development was done and slowed down. And okay, here, and we tweak there, and we're going to allow you until you become a star. There's been other lucky ones like Abu Saka, who had to carry a team from young. But look at the intention. Abu Jude Bellingham, Abu Haaland. Are we doing that for our players? You don't want to see a relay who could have been. Think about where Lodge could have been if he was Lodge at 18 years old. If he had 100 PSL games, oh no, we've got a small league. Okay, if he had 50 PSL games by the time he turned 18 and he was exported. And this is not rocket science. This is what we used to do before. It's either I make you good enough to go that side, or I make you good enough to be able to walk through the door that side and prove yourself. I am worried for Mofokeng. I am worried for his development. I am worried for his ceiling. Hopefully, the people involved, Pirates, his management, Coach Rivero, everybody, are working towards making sure that they structure him and making sure that they structure all of the youth. Guys, that has been the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share. Go on to Spotify and listen. Please, guys, it's going to be on Spotify. Listen. Listen to it there. I'm trying to also build on that side on audio. So please support as much as you can. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye, everyone. Okay, so I know I stopped the video a lot, and a lot of you are wondering, why are you asking for money? So I wanted to show you. I asked for money because I want to do more of this. Huh? But the truth of the matter is that it took over an hour in order just to render that shot. And it takes even longer when I'm doing my normal content because, guys, here's the unsung hero of the channel. And unfortunately, Shem, wazama, but the screen is broken. I have to use a second screen and the performance is not up to it. So I'd really love to upgrade things like that. And when you look over here, this is what the setup looks like. Rehenga di patlo and rehenga di green screen, which is a reality of being a South African content creator. Also, this is what people think is my studio. It's actually my house. So if you still don't know that I'm doing all of this from my home, then I don't know. But that is essentially what I want to do. More of these cool things. But I need you guys to please help me out by donating 50 Rand or more into this account. You know, we're fighting for multi-choice. And multi-choice, but there are subscription models all over the place. And I'd love to give the biggest quality while also being able to pay my rent and do things like that. That is where your money is going. And I promise to give you only the best content that I can if you do throw something in. So I just wanted to show you guys what I want to do with your money. I want to take this South African football and fulfill my dream of taking it into the future. But thank you guys so much. Remember, this is the bank account that you deposit into. Get back into the video. Because the truth of the matter is that the beautiful football, the passing, the guys who are comfortable, has not gotten us anywhere. For me, if I was to choose a candidate for a national team job or to coach bafana, let's say, I would go to Coach Jose Rivero. Do you stay at Pirates, where you are a South African star? Do you go to Sundowns, where maybe there's a bigger profile, where maybe you can play in a Club World Cup? Or do you go overseas? We should be interrogating the development of Abu Shabalala. We should be interrogating the development of Abu Fundo Vilakazi, Abu Puso Ditejan. We should be interrogating the development of Abu Velepai, Abu Partman. I am worried for Mofokeng. I am worried for his development.